What's going on, it's the Polygon Don, and today I want to show you guys 15 incredible indies that you should definitely play, but you might also want to consider buying physically instead of digitally. Whether that's because of the extra goodies you get inside the box, something of a rarity these days, or maybe because of the frightening trend of platform holders delisting games. These are modern classics that should probably be owned in a tangible sense so that you are guaranteed to retain ownership of them for years to come. But more than anything, these are just fantastic high quality games that would look good in anyone's collection. So with all that said, and in no particular order, let's get into it. Dredge is a Lovecraftian fishing game with a Resi-style inventory management system that is as equally cozy as it is nervy and unsettling. You'll control a small fishing boat as you catch fish and salvage items from the depths of the sea, but every action you take pushes time forward, providing the game's day and night cycle. And it's at night where things get a little twisted. Staying out after dark to maximise your haul may sound like a good idea, but stay out a little too long and a panic meter kicks in. As the level of panic increases, hallucinations occur, changing the reality around your vessel, creating hazards that can harm you and your boat. However, some fish that you are required to catch only come out at night, forcing you to face your fears and brave the deep under the cover of darkness. Selling your daily haul enables you to buy better gear for your boat that incrementally upgrades it. Faster engines allow for speedier getaways when things get a little too Cthulhu. Better fishing equipment means exotic fish can be caught, and upgrades to the boat's structure will expand its capacity and its ability to withstand more damage. It's a simple gameplay loop, but an effective and moorish one that's incredibly addictive to play. There was a ton of buzz when this game launched, surprising all who played it, and it was even featured as some publications' Game of the Year. It also left many wondering why there hadn't been a Lovecraft-inspired fishing game in their lives already. The physical deluxe edition, which as far as I can tell is the only version you can buy physically, comes with a poster, a sticker sheet, an art book with concept art featuring some of the game's deep sea abominations, a code for the digital soundtrack, a code for the Blackstone Key DLC, and reversible cover art. Getting the soundtrack physically as opposed to digitally would have been nice, but there's still a load of extras in here that makes owning it physically still very appealing. Velocity 2X is a vertical sci-fi shoot-'em-up where you occasionally step out of your spaceship to tackle levels on foot, and both the shmup and the platforming sections of the game are brilliantly addictive to play and incredibly well polished. With a crisp 2D art style, a pulsing soundtrack and a speed that can only be described as breakneck, the gameplay is incredibly fast and fluid, but most importantly, not once does it feel unfair. It's so well balanced that across its 60 or so levels, every one of them feels like the perfect step up in challenge that you are more than capable of successfully besting, providing you are paying full attention. Normally when I'm playing a shooter like this, I want it to remain a shooter like this, so any weird gimmicks like stepping out of your spaceship will usually be met by a cynical eye roll from yours truly. But this game uses its gimmicks sparingly, and they are so well designed that I actually really welcome them when they did crop up. You'd think that the pacing would suffer as a result, but thanks to the mechanics implemented, the on-foot sections felt just as fast and frenetic as some of the more complex shooter sections. A brilliant example of a top-down retro shooter done right. Another thing it done right was its physical version that comes with the game's 3 expansions on the disc, as well as an exclusive making-of documentary, the incredible soundtrack on CD, and a studio booklet that gives you an insight into British developers Future Labs, featuring a blurb about the studio's history as well as the inspiration for the game's story and art style. Normally, if you're lucky enough to get a manual in a game these days, it is predominantly artwork focused, so it's nice that with this, there's more to actually read. A brilliant game that's even better to own physically, especially as I still see this go for around £10 new. Blue Fire from Roby Studios is a tough little 3D platformer that will require you to master its movement and its Dark Souls-light combat mechanics in order to see the game through to completion. Set in the haunting and perished world of Penumbra, you'll navigate through areas that include combat and puzzle solving, and that increase in difficulty with each level. Occasionally you'll come across what the game calls void entrances that, when traversed through, transport you to an alternate reality where even more abstract platforming challenges await. Mastering them can be incredibly beneficial, however, as the rewards hidden inside are definitely something you will want to get your hands on. Things aren't all doom and gloom though. There are some survivors left in this world that aren't trying to kill you and in fact will aid you in your journey. There are also collectibles like amulets to track down too that you can either use, sell or trade, as well as a host of upgrades to the weapons our little hooded warrior can equip, and some unlockable skills that make the challenges that await a little less challenging. It's a hardcore little 3D platformer, this one, that rarely gets the mentions it deserves. The physical version comes with reversible artwork and a behind the scenes booklet that, much like the Velocity 2X manual, features mini essays written by the development team that detail the making of the game. Really interesting stuff if you like that sort of thing. It's also another game that is still found new on sites like Amazon for under £10, so well worth checking out if you're liking what you see. At its core, Arcade Paradise is a business simulation game. Set in the 90s, you'll play as a girl called Ashley whose father is somewhat of a shrewd business mogul and, dare I say, a-hole, but who nevertheless lets you take charge of a laundromat, one of his many enterprises. You will wash and dry people's clothes and keep the laundromat itself in tip-top shape. No task is beneath you, as you will even have to unblock toilets, peel off used bubblegum from countertops and take out the trash, and all of these tasks are presented as quick-time mini-games. Eventually you discover a few arcade cabinets in the back room, and after making them available to the public, it is soon apparent that these bring in far more income than the baskets of dirty laundry you find yourself cleaning for people. With the help of Ashley's sister, who works for the local planning and development department, you will use your profits to expand the real estate of the laundromat and purchase newer and better arcade cabs, all of which, I must add, are playable, and this is where the brilliant idea of the game shines. Boasting over 35 playable arcade cabinets, a lot of which also feature couch co-op, it is insanely addictive, expanding your collection of cabs as they differ wildly in terms of gaming genres. Hours just disappeared for me whilst playing this game, as the appeal comes from what other cabinets you can purchase to not only increase the popularity of your laundromat come video game arcade, but also to play and experience for yourself. It's such a charming game that is genuinely brilliant in terms of its premise and execution, and it just nails so much of what was special about arcades in the 90s. From the dark abstract carpets to the banging soundtrack, this is a love letter to gaming in general and should definitely be experienced by all. The physical version comes with reversible artwork, a sticker sheet, a download code for the soundtrack, which, like I said, features some absolute bangers. There's one 90s rave track that I completely rinsed on the in-game jukebox, and also a cool neon poster. With over 35 playable games separate to the main game itself, this is incredible value for money, and the extra goodies you get from buying it physically makes the purchase that much sweeter.
You know, Ashley, I was just like you at your age. Never applied myself, thought I could waltz into any job. When I met your mother, I didn't have a dime to my name. Her friends had cars and jewelry and rich fiancés. She never desired those things, but it was nonetheless humiliating.
Journey is a zen-like third-person adventure game where you will control a nameless robed figure through a desert as you make your way towards a mountain that looms in the distance. With truly astounding visuals, this for a long time was the main exhibit for anyone arguing the case that games are indeed art and should be treated as such. You'll jump, float, glide and slide your way across sand dunes, interacting with the world around you to solve puzzles and platform your way through areas, all the while collecting pieces of cloth that extend your scarf, which in turn extends the length of time you can stay airborne. Occasionally you'll come across other characters making their journey, with the only form of communication between you being these cute little chirps and chimes. It's only until the game ends does the significance of these interactions become apparent, and I won't be spoiling that here just in case there are any of you watching that are yet to experience it. Aside from the gorgeous art style and art direction, it boasts, in my opinion at least, one of the most beautiful soundtracks to any game, orchestrated by Austin Wintory. A soundtrack so stunning and timeless I just had to own it physically too, so I bought it on vinyl. The way that theme starts with that lonely cello is etched into my mind forever. Journey the Collector's Edition comes as a trio of games however, as developers That Game Company have included their 2 previous works as well. Flow is an ambient underwater adventure about evolution where you grow from an amoeba-sized organism to a giant deep-sea monster as you consume and dive your way deeper into the abyss. And Flower is a motion-controlled game where you will control the movement and speed of the wind. Carrying with you a single flower petal at the start of levels, you will collect more petals as you breeze across plains of land, completing tasks and breathing life back into desolate fields. Journey the Collector's Edition doesn't come with any extras inside the box other than a sheet of paper detailing the controls for all 3 games, but it's so nice to have these 3 contemplative and gorgeous games all on one disc, and the sheer impact Journey alone has had for the validation of quality indie games and for games as an art form in general cannot be overstated. No collection is complete without this in my book. Victor Vran is an isometric action RPG that plays brilliantly, looks fantastic and is very well polished. I've only just spoken about this game on my last video, so I won't get into too much detail here, but essentially you'll play the role of demon hunter who is recruited by the residents of Zagoravia to help them eliminate a demon infestation that has brought havoc and carnage to their gothic city. With a bevy of weapons to choose from that are all accessible to you the moment you find them due to the game not being class-based, experimenting and finding your favourite particular way of slaying the beast is just a sheer joy to experience. Levelling up is noticeably more swift than other games of this ilk too, and the short and sweet levels themselves provide a constant sense of progression that propels the game forward. There's a Destiny card system in place too, which add benefits and buffs to your character with a whole host of other mechanics and subtle differences that sets it apart from the Diablo clone that many have dubbed this game. The Overkill edition comes with 2 major DLC expansions packed onto the disc, Fractured Worlds and the licensed collaboration with Motorhead Through the Ages. There is a booklet that unfortunately is just the control scheme in English and French, and more unfortunately includes 2 blank white pages. Why they couldn't have thrown in some artwork here is beyond me, but at least they made up for it with a pack of exclusive A5 art cards. Another great game that is still easily available to buy new and for a very reasonable price. The double pack of Inside and Limbo are another collection of seminal indie developed video games that, much like Journey, probably don't need a lot of introduction to most of you. Winners of over 100 awards, these eerie and creepy platformers are renowned for their atmosphere and visual storytelling more so than their tight platforming controls, and man, what atmosphere they do have. Limbo is a 2D horror platformer with puzzle elements presented with a simplistic art style and a black and white colour palette. You'll guide an unnamed boy through perilous environments as he searches for his sister. Puzzles can be tricky however, and the fail states or deaths of our playable character can be gruesome and shocking. It's a great short little experience that was somewhat ahead of its time when it originally released digitally in 2010. And with developer Playdead's follow-up Inside releasing 6 years later, many of Limbo's themes and mechanics were revisited, only this time presented with much more finesse and artistic polish. Named by some in the media at the time as Super Limbo, the evolution in presentation was reminiscent of the graphical evolution of games from the NES to the SNES. Again, you will control an unnamed boy as he navigates through a monochromatic environment, only this time it's 2.5D. Threats looming in the background can quickly come to the foreground to cause you harm, and much like Limbo, feature deviously tricky puzzles to complete. Another returning feature are the excessively horrific death scenes, made all the more gruesome with inside's more realistic character animations and even bleaker tone. The boy will eventually gain the ability to control others, which adds way more complexity to the puzzles themselves, but I won't go into more detail about that here in case any of you are yet to try this out. The Guardian newspaper sums it up best with their quote on the back of the game case: "Don't read anything more about it and play through it in one go." With a stunningly bleak art style and Reddit threads bustling with theories regarding the true nature of this world, this is more than just a creepy horror platformer. This is a fantastic example and collection of games from a studio finely tuning their craft. The physical edition also comes with a poster and an art card. Huntdown is a 2D side-scrolling run-and-gun video game where you will get the choice to play as one of 3 characters: Anaconda, a human mercenary, John Sawyer, a 148-year-old cyborg, and Mo-Man, a robot that's taken more than a little inspiration from the Terminator. It's level-based and fairly straightforward arcade action. You will need to eliminate all enemies in your path to progress to the next level, with your overall performance scored at the end. This score can also be increased by finding suitcases known as stashes that are either hidden within the levels or are carried by certain enemies that will require you to pursue and apprehend them before they can escape. The levels themselves are bite-sized but do provide enough in each to warrant multiple playthroughs to get the highest score you can muster. What makes this game so special is the action and the gorgeous cyberpunk visuals, as the chaos that can unfold in a moment's notice is beautifully realised with stunning 16-bit pixelated graphics. Each character has their own primary weapon, but secondary weapons with limited ammo can be picked up from the downed enemies that were wielding them. Every level is capped off with a boss fight depicted in-game as a bounty and usually arrive with a few phases to deal with. These are spectacles in their own right and can definitely pack a punch, which is all you can ask for in a boss fight. It scratches that nostalgia itch in more than a few ways, like the art style and the incredible music, but that's not to say that's all this game has going for it. More than anything, this is just straight up fun to play and very pleasing on the eyes and ears. It can also be enjoyed as a couch co-op experience, which fits this game to a T. The standard physical edition comes in a slimline display box with 3 metal pin badges and a full colour instruction manual detailing the lore behind the 3 playable characters, their movement, weapons, and even the 4 criminal factions and syndicates that you will encounter in the game. All really nicely presented with screenshots and blurbs, and even features some artificial distressing and bent corners, which was just a nice nod at how you would find manuals back in the day. Lovely attention to detail all round this one, both in the game itself and the packaging it comes in.
Bounty collected.
Signalis is a kind of isometric 2.5D survival horror game with action and puzzle elements that borrows a lot from the early Resident Evil games. It's set in the future where things like space travel and androids are commonplace, and you will play as Elster, one such android, or as this game calls them, replicas. The solar system Elster finds herself in is governed by the totalitarian Usan nation, which is currently at war with the larger empire it broke away from, and their colony on a planet called Heimat employs replicas as the bulk of its military and labour force. They're called replicas as they are androids that use copied neural imprints from actual humans. The problem is that as a consequence, the replicas inherit various idiosyncrasies, such as a compulsive desire to listen to music or to bathe. Odd little tasks and wishes that, if unfulfilled, can cause the replicas to destabilise and turn into something else entirely. You'll creep through Heimat trying your very best to conserve ammo and, most importantly, your health, as you uncover more and more of this game's terrifying world and its trippy lore. The art direction and sound design in this are top tier. They work so well together to create this foreboding sense of atmosphere and intrigue and provide some genuine scares along the way. The pixel artwork is some of the best I've seen and lends itself so nicely to the game's emphasis on environmental storytelling. I really love this game and feel like this is a prime example of what makes indie game development so special. It feels like a passion project from people who grew up playing those early fixed camera resi games, and they absolutely nailed that vibe. The physical version comes with just the one extra goodie. It's a lenticular Polaroid of the main character. Disco Elysium is a text-heavy RPG that more closely resembles a tabletop role-playing game than it does most other video games. It's D&D meets 70s cop show as you play a detective with an extreme case of alcohol and drug-induced amnesia. Waking up in a hotel room with no clue how you got there and a banging hangover, you meet your partner and get to work quickly trying to solve the case of a recently discovered hanged man that you were assigned to. Solving cases and figuring out who you actually are is the crux of the game, and this is done through interactions with the inhabitants of this vibrant and lived-in world. There isn't much in the way of combat, and most interactions are resolved by skill checks and dialogue trees that can be enhanced by leveling up certain aspects of the character's psyche. There are also numerous aspects of the protagonist's mind that can either be supported or suppressed, opening up new avenues when conversing with NPCs depending on which you select, and this system is called the Thought Cabinet, which encompasses all sorts of ideologies and personality traits, sometimes leading to hilarious internal discourse between two opposing thoughts. It's ridiculous how much dialogue is in this game, but what's more ridiculous is how deep this game goes, both with its character development and lore. I read somewhere that the devs created over 6,000 years of history for the game, and with this Final Cut version it also now features voice work for over 100 NPCs. It's truly incredible how well written this is, and the watercolour art style of its presentation marries up to the writing brilliantly and is also well worth mentioning. If you're not allergic to text boxes and haven't played this yet, then definitely grab a copy as soon as you can, as there's a reason why a lot of people call it one of the best video games ever made. The Final Cut version is what was released physically and comes with all the quality of life improvements and VO work the original iteration was lacking, and it also comes with a poster detailing the internal skills of our protagonist's psyche, which is a nice bonus too.
One moment you're running like the wind, then you've suddenly turned around and are giving him the finger, furiously, with both hands. Why?
Wargroove is a turn-based tactics game that is very much paying homage to Nintendo classic Advance Wars. Using grid-based navigation, you will strategize with young Queen Mercia on how best to deal with the advancing enemies circling around her. Each battle is usually followed by a short story segment that will either introduce a foe or ally and further develops the plot. The maps that contain your skirmishes can feature mountains that hamper movement speed but give greater range to archers that are placed on them, forests that conceal positions making the units within them a harder target, as well as towns with citizens that need rescuing and shepherding. While different terrain can impact how you achieve your goals, the main objective through most of these battles is to defeat the enemy commander and destroy their base of operations. But in order for your small army to do this, you'll need to capture nearby villages for income to fund your war effort and to claim barracks that can produce and deploy more allied units to ensure a swift victory. Units at your disposal, such as pikemen, horse-mounted lancers and archers to name but a few, are relatively expendable, but the commander you control is much more powerful. Dealing way more damage than your infantry and able to withstand more, they're great to place where the battle is thickest, as killing enemy units fill up an invisible groove meter and when full can be unleashed on those around you. It's a special move basically, and depending on who your commander is will determine what that groove does. Queen Mercia's groove is a mass heal, while ally and friend Emmerich can place shielding crystals that boost defense to nearby units. It's a simple loop that some might find gets a little repetitive as the game progresses, The battles themselves start off small enough as you are taught the basics, but can grow into these long, arduous tests of patience and resilience, with some of the later battles taking me closer to an hour to complete and after many attempts. The art style is bright, colourful and very sharp, but don't let the child-friendly aesthetics fool you into thinking this game is a walk in the park. And for the creative among you, there's a pretty robust map editor in place alongside local and online multiplayer. Really accessible in terms of understanding and with a wealth of content, so it's seriously good value for money considering how cheap you can still buy this game both physically and digitally. The physical edition comes with reversible cover art, a sticker sheet, a map poster, a download code for the digital soundtrack, and a very handsome full-colour strategy manual that dives deep on each of the units you'll encounter in the game, complete with damage matrix, vulnerabilities, and strategies on how best to use them. Lumote, the Mastermote Chronicles is a 3D puzzle game set in a beautiful underwater environment of neon wonder. You will play as a mote called Lumote, a squidgy and bouncy little character as it descends what it calls home, the Great Depths. Limited in terms of manoeuvrability, our playable character can possess other inhabitants or motes of this world that will enable you to reach otherwise inaccessible areas and allow you to complete puzzles and progress through the game. Set in a fairly big open environment that's shaped much like a tower, solving all the puzzles that each level presents to you will mark the mastery of a specific mote and allow you to progress to the lower level, with the aim of the game being to reach the very bottom of the depths and find the master mote. The puzzle's difficulty creep up in deviousness the further down you venture, but the gradual introduction of mechanics and motes that can help you solve them was really well paced. There aren't many truly good 3D puzzle games that get their due praise these days, but I absolutely love this game and highly recommend it to anyone into the genre, or for those of you out there that want something a little more laid back and relaxed to play. The vibrant but serene visuals and the ambient sound design are the perfect accompaniment for a head-scratching little puzzler like this. The physical edition comes with reversible cover art, a sticker sheet, a decent sized poster, a download code for the EP and, oddly enough, a download crochet pattern so you can make your very own fluffy little Lumote. Dex is a 2D side-scrolling action RPG set in a futuristic cyberpunk world. You'll play as the titular Dex, a young woman living in Harbour Prime, a city controlled by shady corporations known as the Complex. After becoming a target of the Complex and having its many assassins sent after her, Dex is saved by a mysterious hacker known as Raycast. After some revelations involving Dex's connection to a supreme artificial intelligence created by the Complex, you'll guide Dex as she becomes a central figure in the uprising and resistance against them. It's got some gorgeous 2D sprite work and a story that is both engrossing and mature. The NPCs were colourful and a delight to receive quests from, and the hacking mini-games were also a nice distraction. It does feel very Deus Ex-y. The missions can be completed in lots of different ways, and once complete grant XP that can be used as skill points to invest in Dex's abilities. Things like fighting, shooting, hacking and lockpicking, etc. And you can enhance Dex even further with the use of implants, granting buffs and benefits to your aim accuracy, poison immunity and health regen, for example. The artwork along with the soundtrack really set the tone in terms of atmosphere, and it's just a very memorable game world to explore in. It's not easy either, but thanks to the open-ended nature to its level design, wandering off from the critical path and exploring when things get a little tough usually results in some loot or more XP to make things a bit easier. For an indie title, this packs in a lot of RPG mechanics, so if you're into that sort of thing, this is well worth a spot in your collection. The physical edition comes loaded with goodies too. There are some extra DLC outfits, a full colour manual that not only includes a blurb from the devs about making the game, but also details the central mechanics and how best to utilise them, along with some info on weapons, implants and NPCs, but there's also a page dedicated to the history of the term cyberpunk, so you're getting schooled with knowledge here. But most importantly, for me at least, is that it also includes the soundtrack on disc, which is always a plus in my book, especially with a soundtrack as good as this one. Caladrius Blaze is a vertical scrolling shoot 'em up with a massive roster of playable characters that each come with their own ship, weapon type and distinct screen clearing special AoE attack. These special attacks are limited in use due to their devastating effects, but further uses can be restored by acquiring pickups dropped by defeated enemies. As well as your main attacks, there's an elemental system in place that grants you 3 additional attacks that are mapped to the face buttons on your controller, and these can be tweaked via mixing and matching gems for each character in between levels. The bosses are the most impressive aspects of the game, however, with dynamic camera positioning to add a more cinematic feel to proceedings and easily provide the game's most memorable and challenging moments. There's a story element to the game, and it's fairly decent considering what shmups usually offer up in terms of narrative, but it did sort of glance over me as I play these games mainly for the gameplay, which this excels at. There are 3 modes to select from and features local co-op, which is always a nice addition to games like this. Originally released on the Xbox 360, the physical version was exclusive to Japan. It later got ported to PS3, but its physical release was again exclusive to Japan. It then made its way into arcades as Caladrius AC, which added extra game modes, but it wasn't until its port to PS4 and then later to PC and Switch that it received international status and miraculously a physical edition across the board. The physical release on PS4 includes not 1 but 2 manuals. The first is a full colour booklet detailing the playable characters, its story, its game modes, its control schemes and tips on how best to play. While the second booklet is a miniature design works with an extensive double-page spread of info regarding its story and beautiful concept art for the characters and their ships. Really nice inclusion for this cult classic and a worthy spot in anyone's shoot 'em up collection.
私は王だ。ここは通さない。ノーだ。私は負けるわけにはいかない。
F.I.S.T. Forged in Shadow Torch is an absolutely stunning Metroidvania where you will play as Rayton, an anthropomorphic rabbit with a giant mechanical fist that rises up against a controlling evil legion of robots. With the help of a few allies, you'll work your way through truly stunning 3D environments, backtracking and exploring to gain more abilities and upgrades to your fist in an effort to liberate your homeland. The various abilities you get from the interchangeable fists that are made available to you as you progress through the story are so unique from each other, and the numerous attacks that you can unlock via a skill tree constantly keeps this game interesting and addictive to play. The weight and impact of each hit your mechanical fist lands is really felt too, which is a testament not only to the animation team but also the incredible sound design. A massively underrated gem of a game that I've featured on the channel before. There's been a lot of Metroidvanias made recently, and while some are better than others, they usually still only consist of a few genuinely good ideas, but this is chock full of them and looks better and plays better than about 90% of the more modern Metroidvanias out there. I can't overstate just how good this game is. Chinese developers Thai Games seriously outdid themselves here, both with the making of this incredible game and the goodies that come in the physical edition. Now there is a few different variants out there. Originally I played this digitally, but was so impressed that when I saw it had a physical version available to the Asia market on website PlayAsia, I ordered a copy immediately. Then only about a year later it was revealed that PAL Territories would get their own physical release, including a steelbook, a download code for the soundtrack, a sticker sheet and 3 stunning A5 lithographs, so I ordered one of those as well. Now, I can't vouch for the contents of the Asia physical release as my copy is still sealed, but if you can get your hands on the PAL release, you won't be disappointed with the game, and I think you'll be really pleased with its included extras. Well, there you go guys, 15 incredible indies to play and seek out if you haven't played them already, and why you might want to consider grabbing them physically. They're all incredible and deserve to be played either way. I just think they're that special that they deserve a spot on your shelf too. Now, I'm a PlayStation gamer and PS4 collector primarily, but as you saw, most of these games are available on other platforms too. Whether their physical counterparts include the same internal goodness as the PS4 versions, however, I don't know. So if you wanted to get them on Switch or Xbox, just make sure you know exactly what is included inside before purchasing, if you're bothered by that sort of stuff at all. If you like the video, then have a think about hitting the like button, as it genuinely helps out the channel quite a bit, and I regularly make underrated lists and hidden gems videos for various consoles, both old and new, so whether you like collecting physically or just want some new ideas of what to play, then have a look at the rest of the channel's content, as you might find something that interests you. And if you are new here, then subscribe to keep updated on all future uploads. But that'll do it for this video though guys, so until next time, take care, be good, and game on.